ahead. Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. Well, we'll get going. Welcome, everybody, to our 4th annual Sustainability Career Panel. My name is Todd Lavasser. I actually graduated from the college as well way back in 1997. And I direct the Sustainability Literacy Institutes and our Quality Enhancement Plan on Sustainability Literacy, both housed in the larger Center for Sustainable Development. And I want to thank our partners in tonight's events and Alumni Affairs, especially Najima Washington. Thank you for your work in getting this going. And also the Career Center, and there especially Aaron Halford as well. Thank you for helping with this. And then Darian Parker with behind the scenes stuff with our center. So thank you all in your leadership in helping make this event happen. And we also want to thank our panelists for their time tonight. And I'll get to introducing them here in a couple minutes. I just want to provide a little context for why this is happening. So I just want to share a little bit about the Center for Sustainable Development at the college. And some of you have probably heard this before if you've come to some of our events. This is part of a campus-wide project on sustainability literacy that's housed in the center. At the center in the college, we define sustainability as the integration of 5 pillars that make up sustainability. These pillars are social, economic, environmental, political, and personal. And through these 5 pillars, we are asking students to address 21st century problems related to sustainability literacy. So the sustainability, the literacies, the skills and knowledge to understand 21st century problems through those 5 pillars. And within those 5 pillars, you'll hear the triple bottom line, and those specifically are economic. You may also hear equity, environmental, and social systems. And where those meet and intersect is in the literature where what's called most commonly considered sustainability. So triple bottom line, social, environmental, economic systems. And it's necessary to understand these systems through individual, institutional, community, regional, and planetary levels of resilience. By entering into those systems, we're hoping that you all go out and make positive change in the world towards sustainability. So we're hoping that through our project, through our program in the Center for Sustainability, you take some classes. We offer a scholars program, events like this that we partner with. You can get involved with internships. We're trying to get ESPEC funding to do project development on campus. A lot of ways to get sustainability literacy skills related to social, environmental, and economic systems. And we want you to get those skills so you can think about and understand and address 21st century problems that are going to shape your future. And a key one is global warming and climate change. And that's our CofC Sustain Solves theme of this academic year that we're programming around. So a lot of people understand climate change will be the threat multiplier. So all the other things you might be thinking about and worried about in your future, climate change will disproportionately impact. So we're really thankful and honored that the 4 alum on this panel all will speak to climate change and how you can get jobs in fields that can help us address and reverse these directions around climate change that are pretty bad, whether it's entering that through social, economic, or environmental systems, and ideally all together. So I'm going to briefly introduce the panelists, and then we'll move to question and answers, some guided one, for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then what we'll do is have an open question and answer, and you can either do that verbally or through the chat box. And so the panelists can answer those questions. And then Aaron will take over for the last 30 minutes and guide us into closed group sessions. So everybody will have a chance to enter a breakout room with each panelist and ask questions about CVs and cover letters and some really nuts and bolts job skills that you can ask about, specifically related to climate change and larger sustainability jobs. So that's the run of the show. First panelist I'm going to introduce is Mari Bishop, who graduated in 2015. She is an environmental social governance manager at Goby. Mari built upon her undergraduate studies in the sciences at the University of Wisconsin with relevant internships in sustainability, including with the City of Atlanta's Office of Sustainability, and various service opportunities to enrich her knowledge of sustainable building practices. Mari received a master's in environmental science from the college, again graduated in 2015. She holds many certifications from professional bodies, including the Green Associate designation from the leading body in leadership in energy and environmental design, or LEED. Mari led the launch of new energy efficient program offerings as a program manager with clear results, and now serves as an environmental social governance manager at Goby, where she manages sustainability strategy portfolios for real estate, investment management corporations on both national and international fronts. She manages a team of experts in energy benchmarking, sustainable planning and reporting, and leads environmental and social governance training, partnership, and innovation opportunities. Lastly, she remains an active volunteer as a member of the Illinois Green Alliance Board of Directors. So thank you, Mari, for being here tonight. The next panelist is Martin Erbele, graduated in 2013 from the college. He is a hazard mitigation planner and FEMA consultant. He is dedicated and passionate public servant working as a program analyst and mitigation planner for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Region 4 office in Atlanta, Georgia. He supports state, tribal, and local governments in developing and implementing mitigation plans to assess natural hazard risk and to prioritize strategies that reduce the impacts of future catastrophic events on people, property, and the environment. Previously, he served as a FEMA contractor in the private sector, as well as a local government official in Charleston County, right here in Charleston, promoting long-term planning, sustainability, and community engagement. Martin is a proud alumnus of the Graduate School at the College of Charleston, earning a Master of Public Administration degree and an Urban and Regional Planning Certificate in 2013. He's a former board member on the college's Alumni Association's Board of Directors. And as a graduate student, Martin served as president of the Graduate Student Association and founded the Urban Studies Club. He earned his Bachelor in Business Administration from the University of North Georgia in 2011. Martin and his partner Taylor now live in Georgia. Martin, thank you for being here tonight. Two more to go. We're John Thigpen is our next panelist. We're excited to have with us, sharing his time and energy with us tonight. He graduated in 2004. He is a climate advisor with the Natural Resources Defense Council. John has built a career that spans corporate America, the utility industry, and U.S. defense programs in energy management and sustainability. He holds a master's in environmental science from the college, as well as certifications in sustainability accounting and energy management. John led massive efforts as the energy manager for Family Dollar's 8,200 national stores, benchmarking energy use at each store, introducing new energy technologies, and resulting in over $6 million in savings. Currently, John is a climate advisor for the Natural Resources Defense Council and an active member of the Charlotte, North Carolina community, serving as an advisor to the city's carbon neutrality efforts and contributing to a citywide solar project. John, thank you for being here tonight. And our final panelist is David Ramjohn, who also graduated from the college in 2004. He is CEO with AlgEternal Technologies and Global Head of Sustainability with KindEarth.Tech. David trained as a marine biologist and has over 25 years experience in sustainable development. In his marine biology degree, David then went on to pursue environmental studies with an emphasis on policy and law, intending to bridge the gap between science and policy. While at the college, David was awarded the highest accolade given by the college, the Bishop Robert Smith Award in 2004. David is a scholar with many academic achievements and has authored 2 books on the marine fishes of Trinidad and Tobago, where he also served in various environmental management capacities. He's a self-taught marine fishes taxonomist and became recognized as a preeminent authority on fish species identification in Trinidad and Tobago. Moving from marine biology into algae biotechnology and entrepreneurship. Let me repeat that. This is an amazing new field, y'all. Algae biotechnology and entrepreneurship. David has become known for his expertise in practical, regenerative, and sustainable applications of algae as viable economic platforms with multiple benefits. In 2016, David became CEO of AlgEternal and launched 2 microalgae-based products with AlgEternal. David sits on many boards of directors and is a recognized leader in the industry. David posits that harnessing the power of algae represents the single greatest opportunity for humans to ensure that Earth remains hospitable to our species, saving our place on the planet. David, as well, thank you for being here with us tonight and gifting the wisdom of your hard-earned experience, as with all panelists, to the students here with us. Real quick, before we start the questions, I just want, hopefully all of you students and everybody else, I got to rearrange my screens here. As I was reading that, notice a couple things. Right off the bat, all of these panelists are working across the triple bottom line. They're all working on social, environmental, economic systems and where they come together. Also, I don't know if you picked out, a lot of them have leadership experience, including their time at the college, internship experience, volunteering experience. Basically, they're sustainability polymaths, if you will, right? They're looking all over the place, getting their hands dirty in all different aspects of sustainability. So right off the bat, hopefully just hearing those bios shows you the high bar you should be reaching for while you're at the college and getting those same types of skills and opportunities that the college can create for you. So I'll stop there and go to my first question to all the panelists. And y'all will have about 3 minutes to sort of give it a quick snapshot, but basically tell us about the path you took to get to your current position. And Mari, we'll start with you and go through that order of the introduction. So you can just unmute yourself and go for it.
Sure, thank you. So first of all, everybody can hear me okay, right? Okay, awesome. Happens more often than not that I just go around ramming on and then people are like, well, didn't hear that. Anyway, so thank you for having me. Quick snapshot of how I got to where I am. So as Todd mentioned, I come from, my undergrad was very science heavy. I did biology, geology majors and chemistry and physics minors. I've always liked science. I've always known that I wanted to make a difference, you know, make an impact, you know, the kind of like save the world kind of mindset. And the reason why I started with sciences was because I thought that was the very, you know, the pillar where everything else would be built. I think that science is a big piece of everything, you know, sustainability. If you want to, you know, make the world a better place, you got to start there, understanding your science. That's what I did. After that, a bit of a break between that and my master's, which of course, you know, I went to College of Charleston for that. But the next step I did was focus on the policy aspect. So I got my science, I understand the concepts. Now, how do I translate them into actionable items? And that's why I kind of got into the policy. I was very interested in the energy piece. So my focus was energy during my time in Charleston. After that, many of you might be already experiencing, you know, it's not always easy to land a job when the job wants the experience, but you can't get the experience without the job. So I did some internships, which got me in foot in the door in the sense of networking and understanding what's out there and what it really is like to work in you know, in the field. And in the meantime, you know, doing kind of the part-time job, that kind of thing to pay the bills. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. After that, that's, you know, once I had that experience under my belt, that's where I started working more on solar. From there, I was energy efficiency focused, working with the utilities in Illinois, and got me to where I am now. I've always wanted to, you know, I wanted to make a difference. There's so many things that need our attention right now, and I kind of wanted to do everything. So I would volunteer. I would, like, you know, look for different jobs that would get me to the chance to touch on everything. And ultimately, you know, that kind of can't lead to burnout, led me to find the job where I am right now, which is the expert generalist. I help create this strategy that will help companies, the private world, touch on all of these different things. Definitely loving it, especially because there's an international component to it. Our company has national and international clients. So that's definitely fascinating, you know, seeing all the different things and playing around with all the moving pieces and creating a strategy that will tackle everything together at once.
Great, thanks for that. And I'm going to guess that'll be a theme running through tonight's time together, is how to become both a generalist holistically, but also the expertise employers will want. Martin, we'll go to you, please.
Sure. Everyone hear me loud and clear? Perfect. Martin Erbele, I started undergrad not sure at all what to do. I was a general business marketing major, and thankfully a very astute professor, this is at the University of North Georgia, said, Martin, you've never done a single project related to a company or anything else. It's always been a government program, a nonprofit initiative. I think you're interested in the public sector, and encouraged me to pursue those. It encouraged me to pursue that in a graduate degree. The College of Charleston offered a really appealing hands-on master in public administration and had just started some urban and regional planning certificate options. I was convinced, let me be someone that works on long-term problems. Let me help solve, where schools are going to go and everything else. The very traditional city planning. An internship was part of the requirement for my degree, and working with the Career Center, I started working in the Charleston County Planning Office and found out that just next door in the building department, a place I did not expect I would work, that was where floodplain management occurred. And flooding in Charleston was a pretty prevalent issue. It just so happened they needed a graduate intern to update the local hazard mitigation plan. And this is every 5 years, if FEMA gave us some disaster grant dollars, what would we use that for? And FEMA expects that a community will have a recognized plan that is equitable to taxpayers, but will also work to solve the issues that local community faces. I just thought that was such an incredible aspect of planning. It's long-term, it's unique. It certainly relates to natural infrastructure, the beautiful coastal setting that brought me to Charleston, but also that beautiful at-risk setting. So I worked in local government as an intern. That position directly led way to an entry-level position. I absolutely loved it, but seeking advancement after a couple years, found that local government experience was directly relatable and marketable to a private organization that landed a FEMA contract. So this was a collection of strategists, of communications experts, and also folks that knew some of the government programs on the ground. I was able to work with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, mitigation specifically, what can we do before a disaster occurs. And I had this fascinating back and forth. I am now 1 year within full FEMA. I made the transition to join the federal workforce, but am appreciative every day of the start that I got through the college.
Great, thanks, Martin. John, we'll go to you.
Great, can everyone hear me? Awesome. So my career path started with a slew of rejection letters from medical school. And that was a moment where I, collected myself and really thought about what I wanted to do. And I was a biology major in college, chemistry minor. I really liked the ecology environment stuff and decided to go down to College of Charleston for a master's degree. When I finished, I moved up to Washington, D.C. to work for a Department of Defense program. And this is a program that was actually, the legislation for it was written by Al Gore, believe it or not. And what they did was they provided grant money to test and evaluate emerging energy technologies for applications on military bases. And military bases are a lot like small to medium-sized cities. And so, after being in that space for a little while, I realized, number one, I have to go back to school if I really want to get in the science and technology development space. And I didn't really want to do that. And number two, a lot of these technologies can be applied outside of the fence line, not just in military applications. And so I decided that, this would be a good opportunity for me to come back to North Carolina, where I'm from, and try and put some of the things that I learned from DOD into practice on commercial buildings. So I took a job with Family Dollar, a national retail chain, and started to kind of apply some of those technologies to those stores and distribution centers. We were, the first kind of value small box retailer to put on-site solar on some of our roofs. We had a significant amount of savings on the HVAC side of things and a lot of reduction in energy on lighting as well. Family Dollar got bought out through a merger and acquisition, and I was lucky enough to take an opportunity to kind of expand, stay in that same space, and work for a commercial real estate company called Jones Lang LaSalle. They're a global company, lots of energy and sustainability positions for those of you that are looking to get entry-level jobs. It's a really good place to look. And so basically what happens is companies with large real estate portfolios will outsource the management of those properties to companies like JLL. And so Duke Energy, SC Johnson, and Bank of America were the three accounts that I managed while I worked there. So I got to apply these technologies to a lot of different building types as opposed to a bunch of cookie cutter retail boxes stores, essentially. And just to take a little bit of a step back, when Family Dollar got bought out and I was not quite sure what my next position would be, I was in the process of starting my own business. Around that time, ESG, environmental social governance, was an emerging concept that's really taken off, and that's something I think you guys ought to look into as well. That's a big growth area. And I got familiar with Michael Bloomberg and his efforts on addressing climate change, particularly from a kind of a risk management perspective. And so shortly after the U.S. got out of the Paris Climate Agreement, Michael Bloomberg had an initiative called We're Still In. A lot of cities and companies committed to kind of doing their fair share to reduce their emissions. And the Bloomberg Philanthropies created something called the American Cities Climate Challenge. 25 cities got a grant to help them expedite and ramp up their carbon reduction efforts. And Charlotte was one of the recipients of those grants. I applied for a job that was created through that, and that has landed me here in Charlotte with my current role now. We're focusing on workforce development and a lot of utility scale energy generation projects.
Thanks, John. David, we'll go to you. I just got to stop here, and Najima again celebrate 4 for 4 on these alum that are joining us. All amazing stories. David's equally as amazing as we're about to hear. So David, yeah, please an overview of your path to where you are now.
Thank you very much, Todd, Najima, and the entire team that put this together, and to my esteemed fellow panelists. Really looking forward to learning from you guys as much as I might be able to contribute to this. My story really is unique compared to a lot of what you might hear in this field. I started off with 16 years of work before I ever came to the College of Charleston. So I did not go straight to college right after, your equivalent of high school. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. If you couldn't tell from my accent, that I'm not from here. But I really sort of fell into the original field that I was in, which was marine biology, and specifically fisheries research. I was doing that for about 14 years before the opportunity came for me to come to the College of Charleston. So I posted a link in the chat box there to a feature that was done on me by the College of Charleston magazine back in 2014, which I think is going to give you a whole lot more information about, my path to where I ended up at the College of Charleston. And it really was very circuitous. And the one word that can describe my life is serendipity. I can really say that. I had started off wanting to be a medical doctor very early on in my, in my youth. That didn't pan out for several reasons. And I ended up working in fisheries and then got the opportunity to work with some folks who had actually come from Charleston to do some work in Trinidad. And it was as a result of that that I met Dr. George Sedbury, who was associate faculty at the college, but he worked with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. It was he who, after meeting me at a workshop in Belize, recognizing that I was doing, master's or PhD level work in fisheries research without a degree. He said at first he said he couldn't believe it, and then when he realized that I was telling the truth, he, a month after meeting me, he sent me an email saying, "Look, I've got some funds. Why don't you come up here and I'll give you a graduate assistantship?" So that's how I ended up at the college. But I really fancied myself to be a natural resource manager, and specifically in the field of fishery science and marine biology. But it was at the college that I encountered the person who quite literally ended up changing my path, although I wasn't to realize it for another 10 years. And that person was Dr. Reed Wiseman. And Dr. Wiseman was a professor in botany. And he walked into the botany class and on the very first day drew a circle on the board and then proceeded to teach us about that circle virtually for the rest of the semester. And that circle was his two-dimensional depiction of an algal cell, a coccoid sphere in 2 dimensions. And he really, drummed into us what this organism and this group of organisms had done for us as a species, what it had done for us in terms of terraforming the planet. I didn't really, understand a lot of the applications. I mean, the science behind it was sound, and I understood that. But I couldn't see at that point in time how it could be applied in a much wider sense to us keeping Earth hospitable to ourselves. And you will find that you won't hear me saying things like trying to save the planet, largely because one, we couldn't destroy the planet. Two, we couldn't save the planet if it was being destroyed. That's a very anthropocentric view to take. What we are doing is we are polluting the water, polluting the soil, polluting the atmosphere, destroying the biodiversity. We are destroying or somehow impairing all of the life support systems that we found here. We didn't create them, they were here. And we now benefit from them, but we're destroying them. And when we destroy those life support systems, who goes away? We will, not the planet. So that's why you'll always hear me say we're trying to save our place on the planet. We're trying to keep Earth hospitable to us as a species. Planet will go on long after we are not here. It really will. So anyway, my journey to College of Charleston was really an interesting one, but it was really my journey within the College of Charleston that made the whole difference. And we'll talk more about that as the questions arise. But just to let you know that just because you start off focusing on one thing, doesn't mean that that's where you're gonna end up. You will find your path. It's sort of a self-leveling exercise, but it all depends on you. It depends on you, the individual, to know whether what you're doing resonates with you, whether it makes sense to you, because if you're not doing what fits, then you'll feel the squeeze. And when you're doing what fits, then it really does feel like an old friend. It feels like you're home. And that's what you have to look for. If you don't feel at home doing what you do, then you're never going to be comfortable. So.
Well, thanks for that wisdom. Y'all, so it's 6 already, and that gives us an hour. So I'm going to combine some of these questions and let us go through that because I want to give at least 15 minutes. So I'm going to do a hard stop at 6:15 to turn it over to the students to have 15 minutes of questions with the 4 panelists. So whatever we cover in the next 15 minutes we cover, then we'll let it go. Turn it over to students. So students be writing down questions. And then at 6:30, we'll switch over for the last 30 minutes to the breakout rooms. Yeah, does that work with everybody? So I'm going to combine the first 3 that, what skills do you think helped you all the most to get the jobs where you are now, to make a difference with sustainability around climate change? And how did you get those at the college, if at all? And then thirdly, what skills do you recommend all the students here get while they're at the college so they can get that fit, David, you were just talking about, okay? So what skills did you all get from the college or not that have helped you the most where you are? And related, what skills should all these students really get while they are still here at the college and have the opportunity to get them? Mari, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, sure. So if I have to say 3 things to keep it short, number 1 would be networking / being situational leadership. So being able to kind of like chameleon yourself into different situations, and knowing a little bit about everything, knowing, getting those like communication soft skills kind of going. And especially today's world, we're so interconnected. Being able to take advantage of that, I think, is key for whatever job position you're going to be doing, or finding those positions as well. Then second one, again, because of our current times, data is a huge piece of everything. you know, obviously in varying degrees, you know, depending on what you do, you would get, you know, more specific or more specialized into, you know, specific parts. But overall, if you want to do something about climate change or sustainability in general, there's absolutely a data component to it. Kind of, you know, going back to the science piece, you know, not just with words we're going to make a difference. There needs to be that hard data that backs up whatever strategy or, you know, whatever you're trying to, initiative you're trying to bring on the table or something you want to change. You know, you need to be able to know the baseline now versus, you know, later, see the difference, et cetera, et cetera. So having some data skills, which vary depending on what you want to do, you know, how specific you want to get. And then the third one, I think especially within my field, or if you're like me and want to kind of like learn about everything and be a part of everything a little bit, is international standards. So everything sustainability based, you know, what is considered good or bad, or how to get to those places, how others are doing it, always shapes how someone else would do it. And at the end of the day, understanding what's out there, you know, who are the bodies that are writing these rules, that write the book, and how they are written, how they're changing, and just kind of like staying up to date with what's happening with those things, I think is really helpful. Of those three, that second one was the one that I really got out of my time at Charleston. I took some analytics classes and learned about R, or, you know, just simply Excel. And it's not so much like the tool itself that you might be using exactly the same tool moving forward, but it's the thinking. You know, when you practice how to use that frame of thought, it really makes a difference moving forward, and it's definitely cool to put on your resume.
Thank you. John, we'll go to you. Same questions.
I'm sorry, you said it was me, Todd?
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
Great.
let's go to you. Yeah, we'll just follow this.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
great.
no, you're out. I'm wrong. Martin, you were next. Sorry, I'm already like, I'm off. Good catch. But the data got out of my head. Okay, so Martin, on to you. Sorry.
Organization's a good skill, right?
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I would just emphasize, know what your strengths are and what they're not. I chose a purposely less science-based master's program and focused much more on planning, policy, and long-term decision-making. That was what I was good at. That was what my passion was. I played too much SimCity as a kid. But I would encourage you to then choose every elective pretty carefully. I was so appreciative of the adjunct faculty. I took a public budgeting from the chief financial officer of Charleston, management in the public sector, planning integration, emergency management, GIS and other data and analytics. I can't agree and second enough with. Data and analytics is a skill that is ever increasing, even in the public sector, you know, being at times a few years behind some trends. Management and understanding the numbers is critical. The biggest things, though, this is not just a pure plug for the Career Center, but I am forever appreciative of their work along with the Master of Public Administration program of just kind of understanding what are your interests and what are the resources available and how an internship led to a job. And then from that point, I would say it's, you know, kind of follow the crumbs. You know, you're working on one plan at a local government entry-level position. Who does that plan go to and what do they do? What other programs are under that person's management? And you can kind of learn a little bit about it. In the public sector world, at least from my very limited experience, it really is about understanding how pieces begin to fit together, and no one expects you to know that. But to the pieces that you can put together yourself, it made it infinitely easier to find that bridge onto the next piece. So I would really say use the resources, use your passions, definitely focus in on kind of those extracurricular leadership opportunities and interests, but you know, find those bridges.
Thanks, Martin. Now, John, we're back on track. Back to you.
All right. Well, the first one that stands out to me was the cross-disciplinary coursework that I had when I was at the college. As I mentioned, I was a bio major, a chem minor. It was a very, hard science subjects. And so, at the College of Charleston, I got courses in economics, environmental law, public policy, as well as, applied sciences as well. And so that cross-disciplinary coursework, I think, really helped me and prepared me for a career in sustainability, because it's a very cross-disciplinary field. I mean, you have to incorporate a lot of different perspectives in order to find solutions that are serviceable and have long-term impacts. In addition to that, I got to refine my communication skills when I was at the college. I was a horrible public speaker when I first started, but just through repetition of lots of projects that we presented in front of our classes and so on and so forth, that skill got marginally better. But it's definitely a skill that is still used almost every day in my career now. And the one thing I'll mention is that get some basic business skills under your belt. If you're going to be working for a company or an organization and trying to convince them to spend money to do something that's going to reduce carbon emissions or improve water quality or what have you, you need to be able to understand what those costs are and what the savings are from that, and being able to put a business case together to support your proposal is an important skill to have. So some basic metrics like return on investment, savings to investment ratio, net present value, those are really good concepts to really get comfortable with. And you can't start soon enough with that. And coupled with that is being able to align your message to like the vision and mission of the company or organization that you're working for. If you can make those connections on why sustainability is important and aligned with those specific missions and visions of your future employer, that'll carry you a long way as well.
Right, thanks for that. And we'll go to David, but those of you, hopefully you're watching, you're seeing the other panelists are all, and me and Aaron, and like we're all shaking our heads with like everything everybody's saying. So all of these answers are the correct ones. So just pick up on the signals of the other panelists that are all like doing this thing with everything everybody else is saying, because these are all really important. Dave, we'll go to you, please.
All right, thank you. I really want to invite the students as well to use the chat function if they have it. Drop some questions in there, drop some comments in there, and we'll feed off that.
Let me jump in. That's a good say. So this will be the last from me, and we'll turn it over. I have backups, but yeah, students start thinking up using chat. Let's turn it over to you all after David goes through, and we'll let you dialogue with the panelists. I think that's a great, right there, David. So we'll just carry on with that.
All right, good. So I think you folks are, experiencing what I consider to be the best in terms of education at the College of Charleston. I'm not just blowing smoke up anybody's rear here. The liberal arts education combined with technical specialization that you get at the College of Charleston simply can't be beat. And I'll tell you why, because I had no idea what a liberal arts education was until I got to the College of Charleston. My idea of education was always about the technical or vocational side of things. Very focused, you go in, you learn something, you get out there and you get into a professional capacity with it. If you don't understand what a liberal arts education is, I advise you to look it up. Understand what it is, because you will never have as good an education as you can get out of this system that's operated at the College of Charleston. If it's still being done the way it was when I was a student, and you guys are really, really fortunate. Trust me on that. I sort of ended up at the College of Charleston just, without even knowing it. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The ability to think, right? To think critically, laterally, creatively. That is the best training that you will get out of the College of Charleston. I went in looking to get a degree in marine biology. I graduated cum laude with the highest award from the college and all that. But that was not my goal, okay? I went to class to learn. The A's came naturally as a result of that. Yeah. I went to class to learn. I didn't go there to figure out, you know, in the first week, what do I need to know in order to pass this course? No, that wasn't my goal. I was there to learn. And because that was my attitude, I got A's in virtually every class. And I did some classes that were way out of the, you know, the scope of marine biology. I did Latin. I did art history. I did sociology, anthropology. You know, it really broadens your mind when you are forced to do things outside of the narrow scope of your technical specialization. Don't overlook those opportunities. Don't do it. I was fortunate enough for all my years at the college to be working with Dr. Jack Parson. He was the Dean of International Students at the time, but he also led the college's delegation representing Botswana to the Model Organization of African States at Howard University. And I was part of that delegation for every year that I was at the college. I can't tell you how much that built my capabilities. I actually co-chaired the final General Assembly at the first Model African Union at Howard University. I couldn't tell you, you know, the value that that has given to me later on in my career. You know, I was the chair of the college's honor board. I was on the honor board for 4 years and chaired for 2 years. I was able to lobby for the chair of the honor board to get a full scholarship after I demitted office because I didn't want it to be self-serving. But those are the kinds of things that you get the opportunity to do at the College of Charleston, and you get out of it what you put into it. It's that simple. You know, if you're there just to pass the course and get your degree and go somewhere else, then that's fine. That's all you'll get out of it. But if you're really there to develop yourself, to develop your capabilities, if you have a vision for where you want to be in the future, just put that effort into it. Use the facilities, but the best of the College of Charleston is not the buildings itself, it's the people there. Because I found that the teachers there, the professors there, the staff there, they were willing to help you as long as you were looking for help. It's that simple. You know, so what I would say is any degree can be used to apply to the issues of sustainable development. And I really want to bring something to your, you know, to the table for you here. That the guy who came up with the triple bottom line, Dr. John Elkington, he actually recalled that concept in 2019 because he said it wasn't doing what it was intended to do. He said the triple bottom line wasn't designed to be just an accounting tool. It was supposed to provoke deeper thinking about capitalism and its future. But many early adopters understood the concept as a balancing act, adopting a trade-off mentality between people, planet, and profits. I went beyond that. I said to think that people are separate from the planet is part of the problem, because we're not. But it is the ability to think. And what we're looking at now is regenerative culture, regenerative economics, regenerative capitalism. So it's more than just science. It's about policy. It's about economic theory. We have flawed economic theories that all depend on growth. How do we do that living on a planet with finite resources? It's just, you know, it's really not something that can be done. So we have an opportunity to really change the dialogue, to change the way that we look at solving these problems, because the age-old methods of trying to deal with them haven't worked. We have to come up with a new system. This is systems thinking at its finest. And that's what you get at the College of Charleston.
Great, thank you. Perfect timing. So 6:15, we got 15 minutes. I'm not seeing anything in the chat box. So if you want to unmute yourself or put a question in the chat box, either or, but it looks like there's about 20 or so students out there. So question to any specific panelists or a generic one. Okay, so we got some showing up in the chat box. We'll go that way. So one from Heidi. I'm trying to transition my 35+ year career in international tourism development and my graduate studies in urban and regional planning to directly address climate change and sustainability. I'm now a continuing ed student looking to identify some courses to enhance my knowledge base. Any suggested courses off the top of your head from any of our panelists that you might remember? Otherwise, Heidi, if you want to, what you can do is email me and we can set up a Zoom consultation and discuss that if you want to do that too. So maybe reach out to me directly because it's probably been a while since the panelists know what classes are currently going. It's just my last name, tj@cofc.edu. So shoot me an email and we'll set up a Zoom to work on that. Caroline, do you want to, we'll just go in the name. Do you want to verbally say that or you want me to just read it?
I'll let you read it.
Okay. How are you able to stay motivated to do the work you do given the current political climate and subsequent barriers you face? Whoever wants to go for it.
Can I start?
Yeah,
with
please go for it. Yep, you got it.
I feel strongly about this one. So I'll say I am able to stay motivated and do the work that I do because of the current political climate and subsequent barriers that we face. So it's not in spite of, it is because of. I think, yep, this is, especially this year, it's quite a challenging time, but at the same time with challenge comes opportunities, and it is the time that we get all of the opportunities. 10 years ago, when, first person thought of the, ESG concept and brought it up, I don't even think it's been 10 years. I think sustainability maybe. But anyway, it's new. It's a fairly new concept. At the beginning, it's kind of like a, hard, hill to climb. How do you get the buy-in from other people? Everybody's kind of like, well, I get the choice to ignore it, so I will. Obviously that's a very general thing to say, but I think we're at the point now where you just can't ignore it. So that gives people like us who want to make a difference and are like all ready to put like all your time, passion, and effort into it, the perfect stage to really make a difference. Because it's not so much a matter of like, is this a problem? Is there a problem? It's more about like how to tackle it. And perhaps it's not the same, politically. You might have a little bit of a different conversation in the US than you might have, with countries in the EU, for example, where that's already a given. Here we're kind of still arguing, whether it exists or not. But regardless, if you look at, at the local level, there's definitely places where you can, take big strides. At the private level, which is what I'm part of, huge strides. There is not, we're struggling to like grow into the amount of requests and new clients and new interests that we're seeing, because all investors across the globe, it's not a matter of like an add-on. It's more like, this is required. This is something that we got to do. We got to look at this differently. And that, it's, again, we're struggling to kind of like, grow into that, and it's not easy and it's hard work. But ultimately, we have the audience, we have the interest, and therefore the money, because investors are asking for this stuff. So I think it's perfect timing for it, really.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, if I could add to that.
Yeah, John, go for it, please.
Just real quickly, I don't think the national political environment is representative of what's going on at local levels or within corporations and things of that nature. So I think it's kind of an anomaly. There's a lot going on at local levels. Look at the American Cities Climate Challenge, for example. There's 25 cities that are really taking aggressive steps to cut their carbon emissions from buildings and from transportation. You've got the Urban Sustainability Directors Network and the Southeast Sustainability Directors Network. And so all these medium and small-sized cities even are getting involved in passing policies. Look at the RE 100 list. I think it's blown past 100 at this point, but these are companies that are going, 100% net zero emissions and net zero energy by, I can't remember the date, but there's a ton of companies on that list. And so there's a lot going on despite the national political environment. So I think it's temporary. I hope it's very temporary, but there's still a lot going on, and it shouldn't be an impediment to you guys entering the workforce in this area.
Great, thanks. Martin, I see you unmuted. Do you want to go, or do you and David want to get the next question? Go for it. Go for it.
I would love to add one piece of
do
this. As a FEMA employee, we're required to be apolitical, and I just want to emphasize a point that has always driven me. I've worked with communities that have very conservative leadership, communities that have much more progressive leadership, and everything in between, and that will remain a factor permanently. And so I just would encourage everyone to find, an avenue, a way to connect to an audience and find a way to show that sustainability or preparedness, resilience, whatever term you want to use, there is benefit to the community, to the organization, to the company, to the shareholder. There is an opportunity to think in the future, combat headwinds, and find an opportunity to build a path or plan for, any condition, political just being one of them.
Great, thanks. And Rowan, we might not get to your question, but hopefully you're hearing some of these answers. I think speak a little bit to what you're asking. We're going to go to, I'm going to smile here because I love him. Garrett, do you want to chime in and ask? You want me to read it, buddy?
I'm happy to ask.
Okay, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, so we heard in a lot of y'all's backgrounds that many of you hold leadership positions in your community, and that's not really easy to jump into right out of school. So I'm wondering if you can speak to how you were able to get a foot in the door into those positions and how those contributed to your careers.
I'll take a stab at that, if you don't mind. All right. Get involved. It's that simple. Find an organization, find a group, find an NGO or something, and get involved. Put yourself up for service. Okay, that's your first step. That's how you get your foot in the door. Be of service, and eventually that service is going to be the path to your leadership, because people will recognize that you have capabilities. They'll recognize what you can do, and you will be given the opportunity to lead at some point in time. But you can't lead if you can't serve. That might seem very cliched, but it's actually true. And leadership takes experience. The only way you get that experience is if you're in the trenches. It's really where you need to start. Don't expect that you're going to get a leadership position without putting in the work. You have to pay your dues. It's that simple. I worked for 16 years before coming to the college. After leaving the college, I worked for 7 years in a regulatory capacity, then went over to the private sector, then joined private sector organizations, chose to serve on different committees and so on, and eventually rose to chair Trade and Investment Committee for an American Chamber of Commerce. Now I'm a director on the Algae Biomass Organization board. I'm on the Industry Advisory Board for the University of Houston. Just joined Forbes Business Council. So these are the things that you see, but what you don't see is the amount of work it took to get there. So it's really about you putting in the legwork. You have to make yourself available to serve, and then you'll be given the opportunity to lead.
Thanks, David. Other panelists want to speak to that question from Garrett. He's chiming. It could join us from Boulder, I guess.
That's a great answer. I'll just add one thing real quick, Todd. The city of Charleston has a Resiliency and Sustainability Advisory Committee. I was looking at that before today's panel discussion. It's a public meeting. They publish their agenda. That is a good way to get to know leaders in the Charleston community that are doing work in this space, and you can learn about all the different trade-offs that are discussed about trying to implement certain sustainability and resiliency policy. So I think that's a really great way to build your network while you're still at the college and get a sense of different career pathways that are available to you.
Martin, Mari, anything on this one, or do we want to go to a last question?
Yeah, we can go
Okay.
ahead.
I think some of the other ones have been peripherally discussed or addressed. So I'm going to do this one because I think they're all good questions. So thanks to everybody who did chime in. Don't forget you have a chance for the last 30 minutes we'll do breakout rooms. This is an important one, I think, in many ways, because there's a chance for a reboot here. Also, depending on what happens domestically next Tuesday with us. It's going to be Leslie's question. Leslie, are you there? And do you want to ask this or do you want me to read it?
Either way.
Okay, you're up now. Go for it.
Yep. So
Actually, you're
sustainability.
okay. There you go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're live.
So the question is, do you worry that the pandemic and the associated global recession will pause sustainability initiatives by some of the world's largest companies?
I'd like to jump in on that one. I mean, simply because in reviewing some of the questions that Todd had provided prior to this, this was something that I actually looked at. And I said that I expect that post-COVID, the opportunities in sustainability, in regenerative economics and so on, will multiply rapidly. We are experiencing a recalibration of the world as we know it by this microbe. Okay? It's changing everything. And rather than diminish the importance of regeneration and sustainability and circular economies and so on, it has actually brought them to the fore. The things that we need to do to survive and to prevent a similar occurrence are exactly the things that we need to be doing to achieve true circular economies and regenerative and sustainable development objectives. So while it is a scary thing, and it is definitely not something that we're ever going to get out of without losing a lot of people and losing a lot of economic, factors that we have taken for granted for a long time. I believe that the opportunity is there. I believe that we can, by really showing how these sustainable and regenerative activities can benefit us. Because if you think about how this coronavirus came to us, it's a zoonotic disease, okay, meaning that it jumped from animals to humans. And we have created the conditions necessary for these things to happen more and more frequently by our choice to move to a more meat-based diet, animal protein-based diet than plant-based. We have encouraged the trade in wild species. We have fostered factory farming, and we have chosen to move from rural areas into the petri dishes of the megaplexes that we now have that foster easy transfer of diseases, not just COVID. So there are a number of things we have done. We've destroyed the land. We've destroyed habitats that mean that the animals have to come into closer contact with us now. They're forced to. All of these things are things that if we were to address, we would be actually addressing sustainable development issues at the same time. So I see COVID as being a factor that is, to use the terms that John Elkington has written about in his new book called Green Swans. He talks about black swans, green swans, and gray swans. I recommend that you look it up because COVID started out as a black swan, but I think it will transform into a green swan. It is going to be the catalyst for change that we need in order to get the things done that ought to have been done a long time ago.
Thanks for that. other panelists, this is the last question. So if you want to speak to that, please do. And then Erin, we'll hand it over to you for the final bit of the time tonight.
If I can chime in with a couple of examples that I see on my end. So my team within my company services about 30 different companies, real estate and private equity. And, you know, even within my team and then the other, you know, 100 or so that are company services, we're seeing, you know, I know I already mentioned, you know, in the past few years, we just see, you know, the interest for, you know, sustainable business growth definitely rising. But with COVID, now what, you know, that chart that's kind of looking the same, but there's very specific areas where it just shot up. And those are risk and well, of course, you know, if you look at more the built environment, you know, and everybody's supposed to get back to buildings, then there's, you know, ventilation systems and innovation in general for how buildings run. And those two things have definitely shot up. Interest is, you know, just huge. Every single company that we service has some sort of plan or is working towards a plan on how to adapt to those things in that sense. In that risk component, you're looking, if you look at environmental social governance, you're looking at everything from your employees to your community, from your assets and, you know, and your investment line, to, you know, your policies, to the data, to, you know, your GHG emissions, et cetera, et cetera. Risk just looks at all of that and tells you, yep, you're not doing enough. And tells you also, you know, how you can get, you know, through that delta. And though we had seen, you know, usually, you know, those things kind of move a little slower, just this year, we're seeing like, you know, it's like, okay, well, cut these 2 steps out. We got to jump in. We got to, so things are moving faster. Things are, more things are happening because now everybody is on board that they got to do these things. And they're happening faster. Now, are they happening fast enough? Of course, you know, that's a conversation for another day, but in general, it is definitely pretty much an intrinsic part, especially when you look at private equity, which is, you know, companies that own the companies, how the world runs, seeing that, you know, they have these standards that they are, you know, jumping through some steps because they see that they need to get to a better place right away, I think is big and makes me very excited. Definitely sad times that we're living through, challenging times, but again, also full of opportunities.
Thanks, Martin. And John, anything to add real quick, and then we'll go to groups with Erin's leadership. John, I think you put your hand up. Go for it.
Sure, yeah, just real quickly. So in my experience, the sustainability initiatives haven't really been paused by the pandemic so much as they've been reframed. And so, you know, we've obviously all learned that, you know, the pandemic has shined a very bright light on some of the inequities within our society. And so, you know, what the work we're doing in Charlotte is really focused on trying to address that through climate policy and action. So when you think about energy policy and land use planning and transportation planning and things of that nature, you know, there have been communities that have been marginalized because of some of the decisions made on that front. And so I think because of the pandemic, that's really reframing and refocusing how we view sustainability initiatives in a sustainable and holistic way.
Martin, did you want to speak to that real quick?
Real quick, I'll just add that, you know, communities are constantly facing all sorts of struggles, our states and our tribal territories as well. You know, the biggest thing, we're not going to be able to solve the COVID crisis, the budgetary concerns, but I think it's an example of one of the things I certainly try and do, and that's weave the thought of long-term sustainable mitigation planning into the everyday aspects that a lot of these communities are doing without thought. They have a capital improvement budget for fixing roads. Let's start at the ones where flooding has been the biggest issue, not just the one that is next up on the list. So the pandemic it's a critical issue. It's top of mind for everybody. It is another hazard that communities have to face. So anything I can do to encourage them to not necessarily add new, but to add to something that they're already doing.
Great. Y'all, I want this to keep going. This has been the best panelists yet. So again, thanks Najima for tracking these 4 amazing alum down. I'm going to close up with a thanks here and then hand it over to Aaron, given where we are in time. I put the website for the Center for Sustainable Development in the chat box and also our social media. Please follow that. Many ways to get involved. Those of you with questions I didn't get address, email me directly, track me or anybody at the center down. There's tons of opportunities at the college for you to plug in and put to practice the wisdom you heard from these 4 panelists. You still have time. I'm here to back you up. Darian's here to back you up. The center is, as are Aaron and Najima as well. So I want to thank the panelists for their time as well. Thank you all so much. You all are amazing, shining lights of what the college can lead to making a better world with. Aaron, I'm going to hand it over to you so you can get us to the close.